It's finally official. The long-running Bugatti Veyron saga is coming to a close. After months of breakdowns, endless repairs, frustrating dead ends with Bugatti, and one failed top-speed attempt that nearly ended the entire project, Matt Armstrong has fixed the world's fastest production car. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. Because just when the nightmare seemed over, another mysterious fault appeared out of nowhere, threatening to undo everything that had already been achieved. Another costly diagnosis followed, and the road trip Matt had been dreaming about for years nearly fell apart before it even began. But somehow, against all odds, the Veyron eventually made it from the United Kingdom, across France, through Switzerland and into Monaco. What happened along the way? Nobody saw it coming, least of all Matt himself. After the failed top-speed run, the Bugatti simply refused to cooperate. The engine would fire up, then shut itself off almost immediately. Every diagnostic test pointed to the fuel control system, and the first suspect was the fuel control module. The problem was Bugatti itself. The company wouldn't simply sell the replacement part off the shelf. Matt tried contacting them repeatedly, and according to him, nobody would even answer the phone. After countless attempts and a fair amount of persistence, Bugatti finally agreed to supply the module at a price of around £4,500 for one small electronic component. Even then, Matt wasn't fully convinced this was really the fault. Before spending that kind of money, he went looking for a cheaper alternative and found another Volkswagen Group control module that looked almost identical on the outside. For a moment, it seemed like the perfect workaround, a way to sidestep Bugatti's pricing entirely. But once both units were opened up, that hope disappeared. The housings looked the same, but the electronics inside were completely different. The cheaper module had no chance of working in a Veyron, and the search for a shortcut was over. So Matt had no choice. He ordered the genuine Bugatti part, hoping it would finally end the nightmare. Days later, it arrived, and everyone expected the Veyron to roar back to life. Instead, nothing changed. The engine still shut itself down exactly as before. Thousands of pounds had vanished, and the fault remained exactly as stubborn as before. That's when the frustration hit a new level. But rather than give up, Matt started questioning the diagnosis itself. If the expensive, hard-to-obtain Bugatti module wasn't actually faulty, then something else entirely had to be causing the fuel pressure to collapse. Using specialist diagnostic equipment, the team monitored the live fuel data and found that one bank of the engine held perfect fuel pressure while the other side dropped almost to zero. That single detail changed everything. The investigation shifted away from electronics entirely and focused on the fuel delivery system itself. It was time to dig deeper. The team began removing pressure sensors and swapping components from one side of the engine to the other, testing every theory they could think of, one after another. Each test narrowed the search a little further, and every result kept pointing back to the same side of the fuel system. Eventually, there was only one place left to check: the fuel pumps themselves. Getting to them wasn't easy. Large sections underneath the Veyron had to come off, the fuel tank had to be drained, and protective panels were removed one by one until the pumps were finally exposed. That's when they found the real culprit, a rubber fuel hose inside the tank that had deteriorated over time. Instead of delivering fuel to the engine at the correct pressure, it was leaking internally. The pumps themselves had been working perfectly all along. The pressure simply never made it through. Ironically, the actual repair cost only a small fraction of the electronic module Matt had already bought. A new fuel-safe hose went in, everything was carefully reassembled, and then came the moment of truth. The engine started. Fuel pressure held steady. No warning lights, no sudden shutdown, no fault codes. For the first time in what felt like forever, the Bugatti Veyron was running properly again. With the repair finally behind him, Matt could begin the journey he'd been planning ever since buying the car. This wasn't just another test drive. It was proof that the Veyron could be trusted again. The route would take the team from the United Kingdom, across France, into Switzerland, and finally to Monaco. A journey of well over 1,000 miles, and one that would prove whether all those repairs had truly worked. Along the way, Matt made a stop that many Bugatti fans had been waiting to see: the brand's legendary factory in Molsheim. What he found there surprised almost everyone. Instead of a bustling headquarters full of activity, The place felt unusually quiet, almost deserted, with the car park sitting nearly empty in the middle of the day. These are supposedly some of the finest cars ever built by hand at enormous expense, and yet there was barely a sign of life at the factory where they're made. After everything Matt had already been through trying to get Bugatti on the phone, the eerily quiet factory only deepened the mystery surrounding the brand. Still, the road trip continued. Hundreds of miles passed, then hundreds more. Soon the Veyron had traveled farther than at any point since the rebuild began. The car that once refused to stay running was now crossing Europe without a single major mechanical failure. For a while, it genuinely felt like the nightmare was over. Then, high in the Swiss mountains, with breathtaking scenery on every side, another warning suddenly appeared. The dashboard lit up, and the gearbox refused to engage. For a split second, it looked like history was about to repeat itself. Another catastrophic breakdown, another recovery truck, another eye-watering bill. Everyone's stomach dropped a little. This time, though, the fix turned out to be refreshingly simple. Matt traced the fault to a stuck brake light switch, of all things. Once it was freed, the gearbox came back to life immediately, and the journey continued without any further drama. The Veyron wasn't the only car giving Matt trouble on this trip. His Lamborghini Murcielago developed a serious fuel leak along the way. Unlike the Bugatti, the Lamborghini couldn't carry on under its own power and had to be transported the rest of the way, leaving the Veyron to finish the journey to Monaco on its own. After everything, the breakdowns, the expensive missteps, the endless troubleshooting, the late nights, the frustration, and the constant uncertainty, the Bugatti Veyron finally rolled into Monaco under its own power. It was more than just another stop on a map. It marked the successful completion of one of the most ambitious road trips the car had ever attempted in recent years. 20 years after first leaving the factory floor, the Veyron had crossed Europe once again, exactly as it was always built to do. Matt admitted the journey meant far more to him than simply fixing a car. It was proof that every setback, every repair, and every difficult decision had ultimately been worth it. And in true Matt Armstrong fashion, the celebration wasn't quite finished. Keeping up one of the channel's traditions, the team took the money they'd spent on fuel, walked into the Monte Carlo casino, and won it all back. A fitting end to one of the most dramatic rebuild stories the channel has ever told. Of course, the story isn't entirely closed. Questions still remain about Bugatti's parts policy, the enormous cost of replacement components, and whether this rebuilt Veyron will keep behaving itself over the long run. Only time will answer those. But one thing is now certain. After months of setbacks, unexpected breakdowns, thousands upon thousands of pounds spent, and countless hours of problem-solving, Matt Armstrong's Bugatti Veyron has finally conquered Europe. For the first time since the rebuild began, it genuinely feels like the impossible project has become a success. And honestly, that might be the biggest achievement of all.